Imagine the scene. A family breakfast turns into a true battlefield when the mother-in-law erupts through the door with an absurd ultimatum. Without even greeting, he loosens with the greatest naturalness. My daughter has just taken off her wallet, so now she gets her car. As if it were the most obvious thing in the world. The husband, paralyzed, does not know if he laughs or hides. And the wife? Feel the anger boil inside, a mixture of indignation and impotence. Good afternoon, listening friends. I am Andre Branco, and it is with great pleasure that I receive them here on The Family Ties. Today I will share with you a story that will make you rethink the limits of respect and possession. Prepared? So follow this trajectory of overcoming. It all started when, after 3 years of strict economies, sacrifices and extra shifts like a nurse, I finally realized the dream of buying my own car, a simple Hyundai Solaris, no frills. It was not a gift from anyone. It was not inheritance. Every penny of those 5,000 to 7,000 that I kept monthly, sometimes making nozzles until dawn, got out of my sweat. My husband, Igor, earned well as an engineer, with a salary of 35,000, but never offered help. Not that I expected. I wanted something that was just mine, conquered by me. The day I got home with the documents, Igor vibrated as a child winning a new toy. He asked to take a walk, then suggested with that kind of embarrassed way that it would be practical to put it in insurance. I accepted. After all, it was my husband. I thought I would use the car sporadically, a weekend walk, a trip to the market. As I was wrong. The mother-in-law, Dona Tamara, lived in the block next door, and in less than a week my car became a private taxi service. I need to go to the doctor, I have to go to the market, I'm going to visit my friend. Igor, always helpful, delivered the keys without blinking. I, exhausted after endless shifts, came home and found that my car was not in the garage. Again. Once I caught the mother-in-law on the passenger seat, giving the son orders as if he were his private driver. Brake here, turn there, you drive like blind, my son. The car I bought with so much effort had become collective property. Worse, Dona Tamara started treating the vehicle as if she were hers. He left guardials, plastic bags, and even scattered medicines. Certain mornings, I found a blouse of her in the back seat, impregnated with that strong scent that only the elderly use, forcing me to leave the windows open all day to air. Until one day she released, with the biggest wooden face, it would be good to put chairs for the grandchildren. Grandchildren? What grandchildren? Svetlana's, of course, he replied, as if it were obvious. Svetlana, her eldest daughter, divorced, with 2 7- and 10-year-old boys, who lived across the city and called on Saturdays in the morning demanding that we sought the children just for a few hours. Horinhas that turned all day. For a month, I swallowed frogs. Igor didn't even remember that the car was mine. I went out with him when I wanted to, disappeared for hours without warning, and was still surprised by my irritation. Why are you like this? The car is from the family, he said, as if it justified everything. No, Igor. It was not from the family. It was mine. Purchased with my money, safe in my name. But shut up. Maybe I thought things would settle over time. Meanwhile, Dona Tamara felt more and more comfortable to guess. You brake too sudden, this song gives a headache, you should wash the car more often. Until one day, after an exhausting night at the hospital, I got home and the car was not. Igor slept, the cell phone off. I later discovered that he had loaned the keys to his sister, Svetlana, who needed to go to the hypermarket. And it wasn't the first time. When she came back, I tried to talk. She looked at me like I went. And crazy, Igor left. The car is from the family, hey. That's when I fell into myself. It wasn't just disrespect, it was an orchestrated humiliation. And the whole family was conniving. That night, I exploded. Igor tried to minimize, then accused me of petty. You have no heart, not even for your sister-in-law to help. Your mother-in-law so, don't even talk. It's not sporadic, Igor. I shouted. Your mother used the car 3 times this week, your sister too, and you, every day, while I, who paid for it, I wait for buses. The discussion ended with the door knocking. He went to cry on Mom's lap, and I spent the whole night planning my rematch. The next day, I took a radical attitude. I collected the keys and declared, in a firm voice, "From now on, I only use the car. If you want mobility, buy yours." The early days were of a tense silence. Dona Tamara turned on with orders, but received a "sorry, I can't" polite. Igor grumbled, but did not insist. I thought they might have understood the message. Until the bomb burst. Christina, her mother-in-law's youngest daughter, had just taken her wallet. At the age of 18, always spoiled, a student of a hairdressing technical course, she was the mother's Zodo. Dona Tamara does not mean efforts or money to serve her. He bought everything he asked for, boasting his talent for those who wanted to hear, and, of course, played the school without blinking. Igor, without consulting, still contributed 10,000 of our budget. When I complained, he shrugged, "It's my sister, not a stranger." Christina, of course, dedicated herself to studies. Every night he called his brother telling his progress on the wheel. I listened to those conversations and felt a bad feeling. Something was being plotted. And it was not long before the farce reveals itself. As soon as Christina passed the exam, Dona Tamara began her campaign. First, subtle suggestions: "It would be so good if the girl had a cart, Igor." Then, more direct pressures: "She has a gift to drive. The instructor said she rarely sees such talented student." Igor agreed, promised to think. I knew we didn't have money for a second car, but intuition told me that the problem wasn't that. Until the pieces fitted. Dona Tamara started to release innocent phrases like, "Young people need more car than adults." "You, for example, work close to home, you can walk." Or, "Christina is studying, you need to get around. You are already adults, see yourself." I tried to warn Igor, but he was disagreed with. "You're inventing something, she only cares about her daughter." "No, Igor. She wanted my car. And I knew her better than you." The apex of this comedy happened on a Sunday. I was preparing lunch when the doorbell rang. Igor went to answer, and in seconds I heard Dona Tamara's triumphant voice, "My daughter already has a wallet, so now she gets her car." I left the kitchen and came across the painting, Christina, smiling but slightly embarrassed, and the mother-in-law, with an air of those who had already won the battle. Igor, stunned, bumbling something about not being that simple. It was then that something inside me burst. And this time, there would be no return. "What do you mean you will take my car?" I shouted, advancing toward the mother-in-law with a fury that I didn't even recognize myself. My voice echoed through the hall like thunder, making even the paintings on the wall trembled. Tamara Anatolievna didn't even win. With the arrogant calm of those who are used to dictating rules, she only adjusted the shawl on her shoulders and replied, as if explaining something obvious to a child, "Why do you scream like that, like the victim? Christina needs more the car than you. You are an adult woman, you may well take a bus." Bus. The word sounded like a personal offense. And that's when something in me broke out for good. The wire of patience, stretched to the maximum for 3 years of veiled humiliations and orders disguised as advice, finally broke. "Bus," I repeated, with a bitter laugh that looked more like a growl. "So you can fly from a broom, you old witch. How dare to come here, in my house, and decide what is best for my life?" Tamara Anatolievna's eyes widened in genuine shock. Never, in all those years, I had responded to the height. I always swallowed dry, always lowered my head. But not this time. "How do you dare?" She arose, raises her hand like a slap. But I didn't go back. On the contrary, I took a step ahead, broke into your space, and shouted with a conviction that burned in my throat. "The machine is mine. I bought her with my sweat, with my money, and no one, did she hear well? No one will get her out of me." The silence that followed was so dense that you can cut with a knife. Igor, pale as a ghost, leaned against the wall as if he wanted to disappear inside her. Christina, who hitherto watched the scene with a smug smile, now looked at her own feet, embarrassed. But Tamara Anatolievna? Oh, she wasn't the kind that backs down. Gory. She spat, as if the word were a curse. "Control your wife, Igor, or you will lose respect from the family." But Igor said nothing. Did not move a muscle. And that gave me even more courage. "Want to give your daughter a car?" I challenged, advancing another step. Buy yourself. Do you have no money? Work more. Or, after a lifetime sucking others, do you think the world owes you something? How do you talk to an elderly person? She did, her trembling hands of indignation. I laughed. A dry sound, without joy. How do you talk to someone who saved each currency for 3 years to buy it here? I pointed to the keys of the car, which shone in my hand like a trophy. You get here, no less, and it requires what's not yours. This is not requested, Tamara Anatolievna. This is theft. She retreated. For the first time, I saw fear in your eyes. But the old fox would not give up so easy. Family helps family, she insisted, her voice shaky, but stubborn. Christina needs to study. You have no heart. Christina can buy bus tickets with your allowance, I said. Or is it, besides car, do you also want me to pay her studies? It was then that she made her biggest mistake. The eyes filled with tears, not those sincere, which run down without warning, but the calculated ones, those who are squeezed like lemon juice to manipulate. And with a dramatic sigh, she turned to Igor. Iguinho, how do you allow your wife to treat me like this? I lived my whole life for my children. That was the drop of water. A laugh escapes me, tall and sharp. Did you live for your children? I repeated, incredulously. You live at your children, yes. Retired, without contributing to anything, and still think you have the right to give orders? You. She stammered, her red face with anger. I interrupted, advancing until inches from your nose. I bought this car. I paid for him. And I won't deliver it to an inexperienced girl who doesn't even know how to brake properly. Tamara Anatolievna tried to turn with dignity, but the hurry cheated on her. The heel of the shoe deceived in the doorway, and, in a grotesque movement, it lost its balance. The arms spinned in the air like mills, the eyes widened in panic, and then, with a thud, she plummeted down. 3 steps. There were no 9 floors, it was not a fatal fall. But the crash was enough to freeze the blood in everyone's veins. Igor ran. Christina shouted. And I was paralyzed, my heart hitting so hard that it seemed that it was going to break the ribs. Tamara Anatolievna moaned on the floor, holding her hip, the perfectly tested moans. The ambulance arrived fast. The doctors confirmed, nothing broken, only bruises, a beautiful Gallego pigeon in the coccyx. But the mother-in-law's staging was so convincing that Igor paled as if she were on the brink of death. Mom, how are you? He pleaded, kneeling beside her. Bad, son. She sighed, weak. The heart, the nerves. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I knew that as soon as the doctors left, it would be blame on my feet. And it didn't take long. You did it. Igor accused me, his voice broken. Your greed, your anger. Look at what was the result. I didn't push her, I said firmly. But it was because of you. Christina added, her eyes full of fake tears. My mother is like this because of you. And so the martyrdom began. Tamara Anatolievna turned into a suffering holy. He walked with a cane that did not need, sighing with each step, and told the whole neighborhood as the daughter-in-law's monster had pushed it, or, in the most dramatic, kicked, ladder. The stories grew every day. Sometimes I had shouted so loud that I had woke up the babies of the building, sometimes threatened her with a knife. Igor, divided between his mother and wife, demanded that I apologize. I have nothing to apologize, I said, crossing my arms. She fell alone. And if I didn't want to hear truths, I shouldn't have come here to make demands. The conflict dragged on for weeks. Tamara Anatolievna ignored me as if I were a spot on the carpet. Igor lived tense, divided. Christina passed me in the hall as if I were invisible until finally the scam gave an unexpected turn. The mother-in-law decided to take the thing to justice. He found a lawyer, a charlatan who promised to prove that I had caused moral damage to her and, to break, demand that I hand the car to Christina as compensation. The man took 30,000 rubles of her retirement, promised a millionaire process, and disappeared from the map. Tamara Anatolievna was without the money, without the process, and, which was better, without credibility. But karma had not finished his work. Christina, now with her driver's license shining in her pocket, decided to practice with her mother's friend's car. Half an hour. It was just half an hour. Enough to hit a pole, knead the parade and shatter the lighthouse. 40,000 rubles of damage. Without insurance. No excuses. And suddenly the family that so much demanded my machine discovered what it was like to have to pay for their own mistakes. They tried the emotional blackmail, tears, offenses, that family theater we already knew so well. But this time, my son did not give in. Not a millimeter. The result? Christina signed a bank loan and, for the first time in her life, bought something on her own, a used Kalina, with interest that would biting her salary in the coming years. 3 years have passed since that domestic earthquake. Today, the climate with the mother-in-law is of a tense but civilized truce. She learned, at the expense of humiliation, that pressing on me was wasting time. And it never swallowed a manipulation. As for Christina, she still pays installments of the car she wanted so much and today looks like a steel trap. He found in Mora that having a car is not just rotating the key in the ignition, it is gasoline that disappears in the tank, safe that renews every year, spending tires, revisions that appear as ghosts in bank statement. Your beginner hairdressing salary? You can barely close the accounts. Sometimes, when we cross the hallway, your eyes say what the mouth does not dare, you were right. Meanwhile, my salaries is firm. Take me to work, to the supermarket, to the summer afternoons in the dacha with Aya. He, by the way, sometimes asks for a ride, but now he asks before, and on top of that it supplies without me having to remember. Small miracles of adulthood. I confess, on nights of insomnia, I question if it was worth exploding that way with the mother-in-law. If you could not have resolved with softer words, less war. But then I remember the day she declared, with that smile of superiority, that the daughter Del. It deserved my machine more than me. And I understand, some people only hear when reality crushes them against the wall. Force, unfortunately, was the only language she understood.